What's up guys, TSI DoMiNaToR here again, and today we'll be continuing our playthrough of Assassin's Creed Origins Discovery Tour. Now, believe it or not, this is actually the second live stream I'm attempting today. The first was a short 10 minutes of Little Nightmares because I was attempting in episode 2. However, I rage quit, forgetting I was recording. So that didn't, that's not going to see the channel. I have stopped the upload of that and it is now deleted from YouTube. It is gone. So next time you see me in Little Nightmares, I will be at a further point than when we left off. Not by much, maybe about 3 rooms. But next to nothing happened in the games, in the rooms. Got chased by the janitor a little bit, but there was just getting to a point where I was getting way too annoyed way too quickly. And I fucked up. I didn't even get an outro. I just quit. I've only done that once before in my entire YouTube career because I've rage quit an Assassin's Creed episode which I wasn't proud of. So yeah, we're just going to... I decided, right, we'll cancel that. That won't be the Let's Play for today. The Let's Play for today will be Discovery Tour. And you may be wondering, why Discovery Tour and why Little Nightmares? When you've got games that are like years back on your channel. Specifically Arkham Asylum. Well, the funny thing is, I can't like really record the version of Arkham Asylum I had. If I could, I would. Right, we spent a fair bit of time in Alexandria, so we're going to head back into Egypt for this episode, and we'll learn about mummies. And I think I set the rule was like a couple of big ones and a few short ones. I can't remember. So yeah, whilst this fucking thing loads, I'm just going to be devouring a chicken wing, don't mind me. Right, let's get started. Number of stations, 18. Region, Memphis. Learn about the process of mummification in ancient Egypt. Estimated time, 9 minutes.
Welcome to The mummification process used by ancient Egyptians was highly ceremonial in nature. The different types of mummification took into account the social level and richness of the deceased and even included animals. The most expensive was that reserved for the pharaoh and the royal family, as well as some of the wealthiest members of the court.
Book of the Dead belonged to Khonshu's 19th dynasty. Cleaning.
The first step was cleaning. Once bodies arrived at the mummification site, they were placed on inclined tables while the bodily fluids drained away. They were then cleansed by priests until they were deemed ready for the purification process.
That was that's a jar to a situla to carry purification water.
The purification of the body began with a libation from sacred water. The priest then fumigated the body with terebinth resin. After the ritual cleansing, priests used oils, spices, and all kinds of essences to further purify the body of the deceased. Finally, all body hair was meticulously removed.
All body hair? Ooh. Extraction of the brain.
Once the body was properly purified, embalmers removed the organs, following very specific procedures. first, the brain was extracted by inserting a spoon through the nostril to break the ethmoid bone. Then, using a spatula, the pieces of the brain were removed as thoroughly as possible. What matter remained was extracted after a process of liquefaction, achieved through the use of a caustic liquid. The cranial box, once emptied, was rinsed and disinfected with palm wine, and then stuffed with strips of linen cloth and liquefied resin.
Oh, Jesus. Why do you need to talk about fucking, like, ripping the brain out? Eviscerate. Oh, Jesus Christ.
After taking care of the brain, embalmers made
What
an
the fuck?
incision on the left flank and carefully set aside the viscera. The inside of the body was also rinsed with palm wine. Then the embalmers filled the belly with pure myrrh, cinnamon, and other perfumes, and sewed it shut. The removed viscera were washed in palm wine and packed in crushed herbs before being placed in canopic jars.
Min Masut's embalming knife with an Anubis figure. That looks to me like a fucking cleaver. Preserving the viscera.
Canopic jars were placed close to the sarcophagus or kept in a chest nearby. At first, the viscera were wrapped in tissue and placed in the vases. As the ritual requirements became more elaborate, ointments, spices, and even water and natron were added to the process.
Canopy box of King Sebagemsif II. Sebagemsif. Who the fuck named these people? Canopic jars.
Towards the middle of the New Kingdom, canopic jars assumed the appearance of the four sons of Horus. They were known as the protectors of the viscera. These protectors had their own guardians, each a goddess of the dead. Imseti, the human-headed god, protected the liver and was protected by the goddess Iset. Hapi, the baboon-headed god, protected the lungs and was protected by the goddess Nephthys. DoMiNaToR, the jackal-headed god, protected the stomach and was protected by the goddess Neith. And finally, Qebehsenuef, the falcon-headed god,
Qebehsenuef.
protected the intestines and was protected by the goddess Selket.
Jesus. It's getting to the point where you just fucking... If you've got gods looking at your specific organs, then you know you're fucked up.
Natron is a
salt.
naturally occurring mineral found in evaporite. These sedimentary rocks are made up of mineral salts and were generally mined from lake beds in Egypt.
Salt makes you think less preserving the body, more cooking it.
Embalmers used natron as a desiccant to dry the flesh and stop the corpse's putrefaction process. Once the body was cleansed and eviscerated, the deceased was covered in natron for about 40 days. Once desiccated, the body was prepared to be wrapped in strips of linen.
I mean, seriously? Do you really need to see that? Buried in, buried for 40 days? Oh, no thank you. Try to control with one hand here. Got
Once
chicken
the
wing in
body
the
was
other.
fully desiccated by the natron treatment, embalmers oiled, painted, and sometimes even added hair extensions or a wig. They often used a henna-based antiseptic preparation to give the body a more colorful and lively appearance while preparing it to resist molds and fungi.
So that's a wig. Oh, that had beeswax in it? Ugh.
Next came the phase which gave mummies their most well-known appearance, the wrapping. Originally, each part of the body was wrapped separately. Men had their arms crossed on their chests, while women had the right arm folded over their breasts and the left arm stretched along the body. However,
Protection,
techniques evolved over time.
Private
Eventually,
organs.
the body as a whole was wrapped with limbs alongside the body, and increasingly sophisticated and different techniques of weaving flax bands were developed.
That's actually, terrifying. Pictures of mummies like that. Always better to be pull it
In
in mummy
addition to
film.
the jewelry and amulets arranged on the skin of the deceased, Amulets were also carefully inserted into the weaving of the linen strips. Each amulet was linked to a myth or to an ideological belief related to rebirth.
Yeah, that's a selection of amulets from the Ptolemaic era. I couldn't say that for a second.
Masks were an important part of a mummy's finery. Early wooden funeral coverings were very expensive, however, and soon replaced by masks created through a technique known as cartonnage. Masks fashioned with this method were created by laying several layers of linen or papyrus pulp on a base made of mud or straw. Cartonnage was used for more than funerary masks. Ornaments and the animal coffins of the late period were also made in such a fashion.
That looks like Tutankhamun's, but then again, Arch was like heavy, similar.
Cartonnage evolved to cover the entire body of the mummy during the 22nd dynasty. The mummies were placed on a board inside a rigid envelope of cartonnage, which was laced at the back with a string. Extremely cost-effective and visually pleasing, this technique was very popular through all layers of the society. Cartonnage envelopes were usually covered with inscriptions and polychrome decorations, specifying the names and titles of the deceased, scenes depicting daily life, or decorations specific to the funerary world. This was a true gift for Egyptologists eager to study the funerary rites of the ancient Egyptians.
Yes, but you could never fucking read it because they didn't have a language.
Once the mummy
Well, they
was
did have language,
properly
but they didn't have a
wrapped and
written
adorned,
language.
the embalmers
They had the
proceeded with
hieroglyphs that you can't
ceremony
decipher.
of the opening of the mouth. A vital step of the funerary process, this ceremony was meant to bring back to life the deceased themselves, or an object representing the deceased.
The opening of the mouth. Imagine if a body just opened its mouth. Just.
There were no less than 75 different stages for the opening
Huh?
of the mouth. It required the application of the same oils, ointments, spices, and perfumes used during the mummification process.
It's already
Makeup
wrapped,
was
so what's the
sometimes
point?
part of the process as well.
Jesus. And finally,
The last stage of this long ritual was the act of touching the mouth with the adze to symbolically allow the breath of life to infuse an inert body. Its performance was reserved for a very specific set of people: priests who wore the mask of the god Anubis, a close relative of the family, or by the heir to the throne.
there we go. Then we got all the gruesome shit out of the way with mummies of ancient Egypt. Let's say we go to... you know what? Screw it. The Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. I'm calling it Djoser because I think that's how you say it. If it's like the Djoser, I'm going to go fucking mental. Egypt was the first country to earn the accolade civilized. Haha, funny. Oops.
Welcome to the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser.
Djoser, there we go.
The Step Pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex comprised of temples, models of palaces, and artificial constructions, all built for the afterlife of Pharaoh Djoser. The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault.
Played it close to the chest. The Step
The
Pyramid.
Step Pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time.
Was.
Built 4,700 years ago, it was originally intended as a mastaba, which was a flat-roofed rectangular tomb. Its famous architect, Imhotep, may have felt this was too humble for the great pharaoh Djoser, and began to add the steps.
Wait, so he felt that it was too humble. Oh no, my pharaoh, this is beneath you. You must have something a bit more grand, so add a fucking step pyramid.
The Step Pyramid complex is enclosed within a 1,600-meter-long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis.
Yeah, so you ain't climbing that. Well, I could, but I'm not saying in real life. In the game, I could, but
While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the king's ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall. The positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebsed festival.
the what? Hell, Sharia's getting a fucking cardi win today. The colony entrance.
The only real entrance into the complex is at the end of a long, narrow passageway. This enclosure has a stone canopy carved to resemble wooden logs. At the end of the passage is a large opening. Meant to resemble a doorway, it has carved doors and hinges that are permanently open and immovable.
Coffin of Ameni. See, sometimes I wonder the significance, like some of these pictures. They give us a work of illusion.
The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns up to 6 meters high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on the columns, along with black paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own.
Clever. Very clever. Importance of symbols.
Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be chapels representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment.
Perfume vase depicting the country unification, DoMiNaToR symbol with happy from the reign of Tutankhamun. Ah yes, Tutankhamun, the most famous pharaoh there was. The South Tomb.
Guarded by a line of carved snakes, this tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. The burial chamber is beneath it, down a 30-meter deep shaft. The low-ceilinged chamber resembles a mastaba and is relatively intact compared to the later burial chamber. The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body.
I generally thought they were like two real snakes. No, they were just fucking two amulets in that picture. South underground
A polished
chambers.
limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found, including some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and oil inside them. The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased.
inventing and building the
The
step pyramid.
architect Imhotep chose
Imhotep.
stone as a building material in order for the complex to last. Following the completion of the initial mastaba, Imhotep devised a burial of more ambitious dimensions. He set about stacking mastabas on top of each other. Evidence shows that the pyramid was enlarged twice by additional cuts into the steps, eventually reaching 62 meters in height and 121 meters by 109 meters at its base.
Statuette of Imhotep. Does Imhotep know the fucking place for the mummy?
A staircase
Or the
allowing
guy for the
the
mummy? I
pharaoh
don't know.
to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba. The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure.
I ain't fucking going digging.
Pharaoh Djoser the Sacred was the founder of the Third Dynasty. He ruled for 19 years.
Fucking get
During
whacked
his
it.
reign, he was known as Horus Negericat, divine of the body.
The Jericho.
He was given the name Djoser several centuries after his death as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt. An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death.
It said Apocrypha, and I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, because that's a place in Skyrim. And actually all of Elder Scrolls.
Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form. A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus. He was the first to reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region. Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind and would mark Djoser's greatest architectural achievement.
I imagine being in Memphis though, and you look out and you just see a big fuck off pyramid thinking, oh yeah, that's where we buried
The
him.
funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds. Creating these details and softer textures in hard stone would have been a time-consuming, labor-intensive task. Much of the complex is designed to accommodate the Hebsed festival, allowing the king the ability to affirm his rule even in the afterlife.
Saqqara pyramid number 32. What's that diagram? How many attempts it took?
In the corner is a temple referred to as T. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings. It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife.
T temple. The Hebsed.
The Hebsed festival enabled the pharaoh to maintain universal order and renew godly powers.
Fuck off.
Through a series of trials and religious rites, such as dance, offerings, and visiting the sanctuaries of various deities, the ruler's vital force and divine nature was confirmed.
That wasn't it.
The celebration was meant to represent the ruler's jubilee and would take place every 30 years, though the deadline was not always followed.
I can imagine. I
The
struggle to
earliest
follow a
known
deadline.
ritual dates from the First Dynasty.
Scenes from a king's 30-year jubilee. Imagine ruling for 30 years though. Mind you, the queen doesn't need to worry about that. She's fucking... She's like, what, 60 in
Within the complex of Djoser, southeast of the pyramid, is a dedicated space for this essential ritual to be performed by the king even in the afterlife. The Hebsed courtyard is lined with false chapels and equipped with a platform featuring 2 staircases meant to represent Upper and Lower Egypt.
Aye, they really went all out with this fucking step pyramid complex, didn't they? I'm actually quite curious about something. Oh no, I've been inside the step pyramid. Never mind. Come on, Shadia, run a wee bit quicker. We're burning daylight here. North and South pavilions.
Located in the courtyard, the two pavilions are believed to represent the palaces of Upper and Lower Egypt. Rectangular in shape, the two replica structures face one another. Their facade is similar to the chapels of the Hebsed ceremony, with column crowns carved to look like falling leaves. Because Queen Hetep-Hernepti and Princess Inetkas's names were discovered on a stela near the pavilions, it is thought that these funerary chapels were intended for them.
Hetep-Hernepti, what the fuck? Who the fuck named them? I might just be like showing my uncultured, but yeah, I don't get these names.
The funerary temple is on the north side of the complex, facing the stars where the deceased ruler was believed to travel after death. Within this temple was the pharaoh's serdab, or cellar. It is a small, enclosed space with one wall sloped to match the first step of the pyramid.
One wall sloped.
The north wall has two observation holes. A statue of Djoser is seated on the throne, wearing a mantle and a tripartite wig with a crown known as a Nemes. Representing the king's Ka, this statue looks through the observation holes into the courtyard, enabling the king to observe the ceremonies and receive offerings in the afterlife.
So that's what... Okay, just a big fuck off hole in the wall. Be easy enough to fucking brick that up. The city of Memphis. Okay, now we'll start doing the small ones. It is likely that a wet nurse took care of Cleopatra, that a servant pre-chewed when she was a baby, and that they had royal testers to check for poison. But let's be honest. Aye, I get the royal testers. You want to check for poison. But what do you do if they actually do find eat something that's poisonous? They just go, oh fuck, that's the 5th one this week. What if you done to piss somebody off, Cleopatra? Or would they be like, or would they like play about a wee bit and go Cleo?
Throughout all ancient Egyptian periods, cities had one thing in common. They were situated along the Nile's shores. Cities were often designated for government or for worship. Major cities had several temples dedicated to numerous gods and goddesses. Egyptians referred to the organization of their cities as a sepat, or later on by the Persian term nome.
Nome.
There were 20 sepat in Lower Egypt and 22 in Upper Egypt. The capital city of ancient Egypt changed many times over the periods.
Oh, that would be a pain in the ass to try and remember all that. Memphis, Thebes, and
One of
Sais.
the largest was Memphis, located in Lower Egypt. It was a key center for religious temples, including their most important deity, Ptah, god of creation. Thebes, located in Upper Egypt, competed with Memphis and featured as both a political and a religious center. Two important temples, Luxor and Karnak, were built there. A minor capital of the Sayyid dynasty was the city of Sais. This was the last native Egyptian capital of Egypt.
The first
During
capital.
the Third Dynasty, under Pharaoh Djoser, Memphis became the first religious and administrative capital of Egypt. Even when the political capital of Egypt decentralized itself, pharaohs were crowned in this sacred city in order to legitimize their ascension to the throne, up to and including Alexander the Great. Though little remains today save ruins south of Cairo, we can guess at the structure of the city, which stretched up to 5 kilometers in length and 2 kilometers in width.
So it's not exactly the biggest city in the world, but it could be worse. The White Walls.
Memphis was also referred to as the City with the 100 Doors, or the White Walls. These names were in reference to the wall which surrounded the city. Under the protection of Ptah, god of craftsmen, the city was a thriving religious and economic hub.
I was about to say, isn't Ptah the god of creation? But then I realised craft. Makes sense. What's this? Artisans. Nope, that's a 14. Not happening. Right, what else have we got? The Fayum. Fauna. We'll learn about fauna and flora. And then we'll end this episode here. Well, no here, but I keep saying that. Forgive me guys, my heat's just like nobbing in the game today. In there I've got a cheek to yawn. So we'll do flora and we'll do fauna. We'll do fauna and flora. Learn about the fauna of ancient Egypt shouldn't take more than 3 minutes.
Welcome to Fauna of Ancient Egypt.
And the best bit is we can get right close to these animals and we don't need to worry about them running or attacking us. The importance of animals.
Both domesticated and wild animals were features in ancient Egyptian bas-reliefs as early as the First Dynasty. While the variety of wildlife served as a reliable food source, it also influenced both culture and mythology.
Eyeshadow palette. Whoa, what the fucking bus? Oh, that is his chin, what the hell? Meh. Wildlife.
Egypt's terrain
Ooh, a gazelle.
allowed for a diverse range of animals, including panthers, rhinoceroses, elephants, and many variations of antelopes.
Because in the main game, it's the antelopes that are like a common source of leather. Soft leather, that is, because hard leather comes from crocodiles, and I think pelts and that, they come from cougars and lions and all that. Lords of the
The
Nile.
Nile was home to many species of fish, along with hippopotami and crocodiles.
One sentence. Jesus. Like my fucking answers. Like my answers for schoolwork. But yeah, the hippopotami in this game can fuck you up. Like, you think crocodiles are bad? Crocodiles ain't got shit on the hippo. Jesus, Shadia, you're nearly fucking... You're under the water. Birds everywhere.
The wide variety of birds that populated the riverbanks, from raptors and waterfowl to songbirds, were all catalogued within Egyptian hieroglyphic signs. Encounters with reptiles and insects, such as cobras, scorpions, and scarabs, influenced hieroglyphs and art.
Oh Jesus, that's a fair fucking run. So yeah, well, we will be playing through the main Origins game at some point. First of all, we're going to do the Discovery Tour, the RPG games, Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla. And I know for a fact that they're updating Valhalla to have its Discovery Tour out in England, so yes! First place I'm going, Hadrian's Wall. It's lions.
While all animals had sacred meanings, lions in particular represented power and royalty to ancient Egyptians. They were so prized by pharaohs that they were hunted to extinction within Egypt.
Jesus. Like, could you ever get close enough like this to a lion? I think not. I'm sorry, I have to take a picture of this. How could you not? Although our fucking lions like growl or noise like that kind of scares the shit out of me. See, I keep forgetting that you can move the map with the touchpad. Flora. Let's learn about the flowers, shall we? Caesar would sleep at odd hours to protect himself against assassination attempts. Well, if you're a student of history, you realise that it didn't really help matters, did it? He ended up getting stabbed to death by his friends. You too, Brutus! Fuck you.
Welcome to Flora of Ape. The climate and unique geography of the Nile Delta offered a wide variety of plant species. Many of these plants served as sustenance for ancient Egyptians and as crops for trade. The Nile's consistent seasons allowed Egypt to sustain itself for centuries.
See, as I was just saying, imagine getting this close to a fucking crocodile. Oh, no, fuck that, I'm out. I know it won't hurt me, but still, I'd rather not.
Possibly the most useful of the plants was the papyrus. This tall sedge plant grew in abundance along the water's edge of the Nile. Commonly known for its use as paper, the ancient Egyptians found many other functions for it, including rope, sandals, and mats. Papyriform boats made from the plant are seen in paintings and reliefs, and were used in ritualistic ceremonies.
Right, it says that it could be used as paper, but they also used it as rope. Can you imagine the stuff that is, like paper's made out could be used to make a rope?
There were many types of trees along the river Nile, such as the date palm, carob, and tamarisk. The earliest fruit tree cultivated was the fig tree, followed by apple, pomegranate, and eventually olive trees during the era of the New Kingdom. Mango cultivation was the result of a late import from Asia during the Middle Ages.
Well, at least they got the priorities right, they had apple. Right, last one of the day.
Some trees were associated with gods, such as the acacia with Horus.
Acacia?
The divinities Thoth and Seshat were depicted inscribing the reign of the king into a Persea tree. The sycamore was connected with the goddess Iset, patron of the ritual of life.
Well, I don't need to fast travel anyway because there's a viewpoint right there. And that's where we're going to end that episode here, guys. Not really many tours done today, but as you've learnt by now, we've... Sorry, could you please get up? Aye, thanks, Shadia. Alright, let's try this again. No allotted tours done today, but as I said, we've got 10, 18, 24, 35, 40. 40 out of like 75. We've got 35 tours left. We're getting there, slowly but surely. I think this is bad. We could be doing a hell of a lot worse. Like, no, I generally can't. I honestly can't like climb up this. Is this not a viewpoint? Then why you lie to me? Alright, you seem to be jumping off that bit. Let's see what. Because why the hell not? Again, I don't know when the next episode of Discovery Tour will be. But and for those of you that are coming from Glitch Hunter and watching my channel, which may be a very small number of you, you'll be happy to know I have finally grinded Origins off screen. So the next episode of my Origins playthrough on the Glitch Hunter channel will be going up on Friday. And we can hopefully get the Scarabs questline over with. Not holding out a lot of hope for that. But yeah, we're good to go with that. So, once again, thanks for watching. Stay safe, keep on gaming, like, favourite and subscribe if you enjoyed. And if you want to see more Discovery Tour on the channel, consider hitting that notification bell and you'll get an update whenever we post a new video. Whenever I post a new video, I keep saying we because I'm too used to saying that for Glitch Hunter. My apologies. And consider following me on Twitter to get more frequent updates and that from me at MadmanRoberto12, and from me and Shadia here once again overlooking the beautiful Siwa Oasis. Catch you next episode. Bye. Flawless.